Saturday, the 5th of June 2021, marked 40 years since the first recorded cases of what became known as Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, AIDS, caused by HIV. The pandemic came into existence and still remains with us today. Coming up this week is the 10th SA AIDS virtual conference, which takes place on Wednesday and Thursday. To discuss the research that has been gathered on TB, HIV and AIDS and COVID, we are joined by conference chair Dr. Gloria Maimela. Dr. Maimela, a very good morning. Thank you for speaking to us. Speak to us about the theme of this year's conference. Dr. Maimela, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic that we can hear you now. Can you take us through the theme of this year's conference?
Yes, sure. So the theme of the conference this is the 10th SA AIDS conference, and the theme is the ending AIDS amid pandemics. And so perhaps if you can allow me just to give a bit of a background in terms of where the theme comes from and where we come from with HIV as a epidemic in this country. So just out of interest for the viewers, yesterday, the 5th of June, marked the 40th anniversary of when HIV/AIDS was described as a virus that caused, illness and death in 5 young gay men in the US. And then the first case of HIV/AIDS was reported in South Africa in 1982. Fast forward to 1996. The science reports an effective antiretroviral treatment that can be used to treat HIV, but unfortunately, this drug was only available in first world countries, and you can draw similarities with the COVID-19 vaccines. And it was only in 2004 when South Africa first rolled out antiretroviral treatment after much lobbying from activists, and also lobbying for antiretroviral drug prices to be effectively reduced. Fast forward to 2022, South Africa is almost on track to reach the United Nations 1990 goals. We have 90% of 7.5 million people estimated to be living with HIV diagnosed. We have about 5.5 million people on treatment, and we have almost 88% of those people virally suppressed. Fast forward to the 5th of March, we have the first COVID case in South Africa, and that begins the journey where you see derailment from progress that has been done, progress that has been achieved by South Africa, in that resources get diverted to COVID-19. COVID-19 takes over the spotlight, rightfully so. But however, what remains behind is that people no longer are able to access treatment. We are concerned about the number of infections as more and more people are not able to access prevention or pre-exposure prophylaxis. So this conference would like to put the spotlight back on HIV and TB to say that even in the midst of pandemics, we want to get back on track. We want to make sure that we're able to bring this epidemic to control as previously planned.
Now, can you tell us about the impact that COVID-19 has had, certainly on some of the progress that you've made? What is it doing, for instance, to the administration of the antiretrovirals at the moment?
Yeah, sure. As I've mentioned, that before COVID-19, we had about 5.5 million people accessing antiretroviral treatment in South Africa. In fact, we have the largest antiretroviral treatment program in the world. But what has happened since COVID-19 is that people were no longer able to access treatment. We have reports emanating, for example, from Gauteng that said in last year that over 10,000 people were reported not having access to antiretroviral treatment, which was of grievous concern. We have reports coming out from Lancet that showed that the number of tests done to monitor HIV, CD4 count, and viral load dropped by more than 50%. We had facilities closing, people not able to access treatment, and that the risk of that is huge. Not only that we are reversing the gains that we've made, but there's now evidence that's emerging that when people living with HIV are not able to access antiretroviral treatment, you have a high risk of COVID-19 mutations. And that's one of the topics that we'll be discussing at the conference.
Maimela, you mentioned that we have the largest antiretroviral distribution, if you will, for want of a better description, in the world. I suppose this also speaks to the number of South Africans that are living with HIV and AIDS.
Yeah, I mean, we have an estimated 7.5 million people estimated to be living with HIV/AIDS in South Africa. I mean, we carry 20% of the global burden. So the world is looking to South Africa to get on top of both pandemics, so both HIV, TB as well, and COVID-19.
Now, what work is being done to reduce these numbers? 1 in 5, obviously, is astronomical.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot that has been done. The scientific breakthrough, the voice of the community. I mean, there's many technologies that have been introduced. PrEP, for example, pre-exposure prophylaxis, has been rolled out to, for example, adolescent girls and young women and key populations who have been disproportionately affected by HIV. We have simplified treatment, instead of 5 different drugs that people living with HIV were taking, people are now taking a single drug a day, and even now we've come up with even safer and more cheaper drugs that can be taken. We have come up with innovations around service delivery in South Africa and in many, many things. You know, the law has been progressive, policy has been progressive to make sure that people are able to access treatment so that we are on track to reach the UN goals.
Now, earlier you talked about a pandemic within a pandemic. Now, 75% of the world's AIDS cases or HIV cases are on the continent. Just how much influence do we have in contributing an end to HIV and AIDS? When you juxtapose it to COVID-19, the entire world has come together. Are we having a similar situation with HIV and AIDS?
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky. We have one of the most brilliant scientists in the world who have contributed to the science of HIV and were able to divert resources and contribute to the science of COVID-19. Yeah, the vocal activists as well who have been vocal about, even now the distribution of vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines to the community. So there's a lot that we've done that the community, that the world can learn from South Africa. Going forward, there's excellent research that's taking place, as I mentioned before, looking into the impact of, COVID-19 or the emergence of COVID-19 variants in people living with HIV. And that's an interesting space to look forward to that the world can learn from us.
Dr. Maimela, thank you for your time this morning, and we wish you a successful conference. 10th SA AIDS Conference Chair, Dr. Gloria Maimela.